How's it going, everybody? It's Luminostic. As promised, I ate a couple of pan cyans, and so we're going to try to download a message from Intergalactic Central or whatever it is. Hold on, though. I have to kill the volume on this laptop because that's going to drive me insane. Okay, so man, the world is really just losing its fucking mind, and there is no way to put it mildly. Um, I legitimately try to avoid sounding conspiratorial or taking an explicit stance in the political arena, but the circumstances have just kind of created there's no way to avoid it. But let's have some fun first and talk about some interesting things in regards to consciousness and some opportunities to empower ourselves and talk a little bit about why I'm leaving tomorrow. Originally, I had planned to just go and try to do an interview with maybe a Shuar shaman up north, and that evolved into why don't you come and live in a Shuar community? And I thought, oh, okay. So I'm going to leave tomorrow, I think is the plan. My interpreter's being a little flaky, so I'm not sure, but definitely by Monday. And where we're going is a tributary of the Pastaza River, which is one of the most biodiverse places on Earth. There are 3,000 species of freshwater fish in the river, which is insane. I've always wanted to see a wild anaconda. You know, I've been studying the Amazon and the Shuar and ayahuasca and all of this stuff since I was a small child. And so it's a pretty extraordinary kind of bucket list. And I wasn't really expecting it either. You know, I mean, it's something that I've always felt called to do. But it's like I almost had to be forced into it in order to actually to pull the trigger. And so I'm leaving tomorrow to go and meet with our Shuar contact and travel into the jungle, check out the situation. In part because a week or so ago, I saw a documentary made by what's his name, the really really old guy that does them all. You know, that guy, whatever. And he said, you know, they were giving all these like predictions, timelines, and he said that the Sahara are is or the Amazon is likely to be a Sahara-like dust bowl in the 2030s. Let me respond to some of you guys. Uh, and so I thought, you know, fuck that. If I have to join the Shuar, I mean, and this is no joke. Occasionally, there has actually been violence resulting in death, conflict between the Shuar and the Chinese mines. They'll literally show up the Chinese and say, "Okay, you have 2 hours to move your village. We're going to bulldoze it whether you're here or not." And so, you know, this isn't even the Ecuadorian government. This is just like the Chinese here. Like they've been given permission to just do what the fuck ever they want, I guess. And so, in this particular case, the Shuar tried to spear them, and that didn't work very well because they had guns. So the Shuar took whatever money they had, went into the jungle, found some guerrilla narco traficantes, bought some guns, and came back and shot one of the soldiers right through the head. Um, Point being that defending the Amazon rainforest can actually result in serious violence. And it happens actually considerably more than people would think. And um, so my thinking though is that if the Amazon goes, we all go, and we're talking about like 15 years by some estimates that the Amazon is going to look like the Sahara. I just, you know, I'm all about living a meaningful life and making some sort of measurable contribution. And for me, I think that means going into the jungle and, you know, just really trying to commit on a deeper level to not only my relationship with the medicine and learning as much as I can about the Shuar way, which is how I've been taught so far, um, but obviously, you know, taking it a lot deeper and stepping up my commitment to preservation. So let's talk about some of the weird shit that happened this week. So the CCP is such a nice group of people. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. So I'm walking home the other day, and I had been thinking that I needed to start microdosing with psilocybin. I mean, I have ayahuasca, available all the time, and of course that can do a lot of wonders. But for whatever reason, I just felt specifically called to start microdosing psilocybin. And part of the motivation for that is that I used to have a really bad pill addiction that was a result of medical issues. And the drug that they gave me to combat the withdrawal, Suboxone, completely melted my brain. So I'd spent all my money, tens of thousands of dollars, and didn't even remember how later. And I'm just starting to be able to memorize sheet music again and stuff. So it's really, really bad. And so, trying to rebuild my brain. And I was getting frustrated because the cow fields around my house hadn't been producing the cubensis that they normally do in other years. And so I was kind of frustrated about that and thinking about it. And we're walking home one day, and remember that most people here say that there's only the golden teachers, which isn't true. There's the panpsyans, but there are others apparently that not even the Audubon Society field books know about. As I was about to find out. So I'm walking home, and for no reason at all, I leave the trail and go straight into the woods right to this weird looking mushroom. And it was very thin, and actually, this one, or one very much like it. I'm walking along, and I walk right to this thing, and I pick it up, and it's like weird and rubbery, and it didn't look exactly like this, or I would have recognized, like, this looks just like an azareshin. And I didn't know what it was, and they smell like Play-Doh or something, totally inedible. So I literally thought, like, okay, can't eat it, probably poisonous, let's take it home. So I left it on the windowsill and forgot about it for a day or two, and then I pick it up, and it's blue, and I was like, huh. Definitely some kind of psilocybe. So I posted in a group, and somebody identified it as psilocybe cyrillescen. Cyrillescen is probably how you pronounce it, and it's the landslide mushroom, and I knew that. And the name implies partly that it grows in disturbed soil, but also usually in large quantities. So we went back, and sure enough, every day under the bushes, there's just everywhere you look, and it's raining every day, so they just over and over and over. So that was trippy, it's like, why did I even go into the woods? I mean, there was like no reason, and I literally walked straight to this mushroom. So this plays into the events of the next couple of days. So I guess probably about the next day or so, I was trying to help a friend with a social media project. And so I was looking for her house, which I'd never been to. And before I left, I was studying Spanish. And the app that I use generally doesn't repeat phrases unless you get them incorrect. And it was, I riesgo de now I'm going to get it wrong. Whatever, Spanish for there's a risk of lightning. Relampagos, I think. And so over and over and over again. And I was like, what the hell is up with this? And it's clear out too. So I'm looking for this house, and it starts to rain. And that's when I was like, okay, that's just too much. I'm not looking for the house anymore. So I'm walking around, and I start thinking, well, if people are becoming more conscious, then it's because there's some fundamental force in the universe that, like, the universe is becoming more conscious. And this is not necessarily a new thought to me, but it's just something that really registered in the moment. And partly because I had been reading actually an article that we're going to talk about a little later in Scientific American, where a physicist was saying that, some type of panpsychism would potentially fill in all the blanks in our theoretical physical models. And so as soon as I had this thought that like the universe is becoming more conscious, this other voice in my head was like, "You're about to see some serious evidence for that." And I was like, "Okay." So so I get to the park and I go into the store and I walk out and I thought I died. Like the lightning was so close that I couldn't see anything for probably 30 seconds. The flash, like the thunder, I thought I was hurt for at least a minute. Like it took me a good 45 minutes to totally like resume baseline. And so I immediately remembered there is a risk of lightning. And you know, I mean, I'm 42 years old, and honestly, here in this part of Ecuador, I've noticed before that there's not usually thunder and lightning that accompanies the rainstorms. So it's not like it's just like Florida and shit is just blowing up all the time when there are electrical storms. Um, so 42 years old, and you know, an hour after this app is over and over again. There's a risk of lightning. There's a risk of lightning. I'm nearly struck by it after thinking that I'm going to, some voice in my head tells me that I'm going to hear or see, you know, evidence that the universe is becoming more conscious. But it doesn't stop there. So after the lightning, it's like tropical rainstorm, full on just torrential ridiculousness. So I hail a taxi, and the guys, you know, my Spanish is okay, but I couldn't quite get all of it, you know, and it's like really, really pouring. Where I'm going, the next door neighbor, Chambabamba, um, it's a floodplain, and I've literally seen like he has teepees out there sometimes, and the river will just suddenly flood the whole thing and destroy everything. I mean, it's dangerous. Like if you're somebody actually did get swept away a couple months ago. Um, so I was pretty sure the guy was telling me like I'm not taking you all the way to the bottom because I don't want to die in the river, you know. But what he was actually saying is I'm going to drive you right to the tarp on under the stage because they have a stage where bands come and play sometimes, and there's a tarp. So he pulled right up in there, you know, and I gave him some money. I'm like, no cambio, no change, you know. And so I get out and I have all this stuff in my pockets because I wasn't expecting the rain when I left the house. It was dry out. And so uh, standing on the stage for a few minutes, and there's literally like it's puddling everywhere. I'm thinking like I have to walk right through the sketchy area. The river suddenly does flood. Um, what should I do? But I really need to get home. And then I walk to the edge of the stage, and that same voice is like, you think the shit with the lightning was ridiculous? Watch this. And I knew instantly. I was like, the second my foot hits the grass, the rain is going to stop. And of course, I had like this other bit of me that was doubting. So I step off the thing into the grass, and the rain's gone. And I'm like, come on, give me a fucking break, right? So it's not over yet, though. I get home, and for some reason, I decided to tell. Oh no, I need to back up a little bit. So my partner and I are talking about this shit leads to like a conversation about telepathy and how the Grateful Dead's music was um, based on the idea that consciousness is really a universal field and that we could all access it. And um, there was a specific story about when they did their 50th anniversary shows and how I got connected by this guy named Paul Kinney to the guy that at the time, unfortunately, he killed himself. I can't recall his name, Neil. But anyways, I was just telling my partner the story about Paul Kinney and it had to do with telepathy as well. And it's important to note that Paul and I don't normally talk. I've heard from this guy once in 5 years or something. I mean, it's not that we're not friends, nothing happened. It's just that we just don't communicate very often. So I send my step on a message telling her, like, listen to what just happened in the last 2 hours or whatever. And I put the phone down and I go out to the kitchen and I come back and there's a message from Paul Kinney, who I've literally never ever heard from before. And so what I'm getting at with all that is that it really does seem to me that there is some kind of grand intelligence that has permeated the universe, and these kind of communications become sort of like routine, and the more we're open and receptive to it, the more intense it gets. And part of the reason I'm bringing all this up is that even though I'm not a huge fan of astrology, like I don't study it much. It's not that I don't think that the positions of everything is meaningful. The universe is like a physical, crystallized fucking metaphor, basically, right? So it's not that I don't think that it's meaningful. I don't have time to investigate it to my own satisfaction or whatever. But I have noticed that these kind of experiences ramping up in the way that they are is very consistent with what I would expect to come along with the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter that everyone keeps asking me about. And my response is probably disappointing, just like, well, that's just one thing that I just really don't give space to. Um, so, so that ends the weird story segment of this live stream. Okay, so this other subject, I'm like hesitant to even broach it, man, because it pisses people off so much. It's kind of a lame subject in general. But I think it really services to elucidate what our fundamental problems are. And if we don't accurately um, diagnose our problem, we have a very bad prognosis, right? Like you have to be able to objectively assess, risk and threat and these sort of things in order to prevail in any set of circumstances. And thank you, Flezick. uh, And so politics serves us kind of in that regard. Although before we get into that, since economics is kind of connected, um, many months ago, my intuition very strongly. We didn't have very much money. COVID lockdown had just happened, and so I mean, we have a couple $1,000s or something, but we have no idea how long the lockdown's going to be. No one's traveling. Our businesses are shut down. So I wasn't really in a hurry to invest no matter what I thought. And turns out that I could have, and that it would have been really smart to listen to myself. So I just want to share that with you guys because I think that, empowering ourselves as conscious people financially, a lot of us don't care about it because we're not concerned with the material. We don't want to be yuppies. We're not looking to accrue power. But at the same time, if you want to change the world, some of the parameters of doing so are dictated to us and not by us. And so, money is power in this world. Man, the Cerulescens. Oh, I didn't mention that. They turned out to be the same mushroom that was used by the Incas and the Mayans and the Mesoamericas. Like these are the pre-Columbian Tiamacatl. And so I thought that was interesting as well, that they're not recognized to exist in Ecuador. So no one that has known what they are apparently has found them and reported it. So that was super weird too. But what I'm saying is that, the Chinese character for crisis, danger and opportunity combined, and it's everything contains its contradiction. That is, absolutely. I actually forgot to talk about the chaos equation, man. That holy shitballs. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. So in the middle of crisis, there's always going to be opportunity, and I know some people that have some money, and I told them, I was like, man, look, mind med. Put your money in mind med. Do it now. It's not just me. There's like major straight world investors, the top guys are like, those stocks will continue to perform over the decade probably better than anything else. And so that was in March. And I just happened to check the other day, and so far there's been an 800% return on MindMed. So, and also the other thing that I was advising people is Bitcoin, which seemed really obvious, and it just broke records. So, we have to trust in our intuition, and we have to, even if you only have a little bit of money. I mean, I realized if I had just actually asked my partner, like, do you think I should just put like $100 or something into this? And I didn't do it. And now realizing that that $100 that we totally could live without would be 800 now. Um, we really, this is something we need to balance the pentagram. And it's one of the things that I've noticed with people that are spiritual or people that are on this path, there's a tendency to kind of ignore all of that. And we have to take responsibility. We are the eye at the top of the pyramid, and we got to act like it. If we don't structure our culture, someone else will do it for us. Gosh, okay, so there's that. I just wanted to mention, it's still an opportunity. Mind Med is the big one. Keep it simple. Put some money in Mind Med. Wait a year. I guarantee you it'll be worth a lot more than it is now. And so, okay, now the political shit, because this is where it's just really difficult. I used to kind of be a liberal, and I didn't really understand that actually meant a lot of the things that the people that were critical of liberals would say, that they really did want to be just regulated in bigger government and just this blind trust in our government and all of the shit the right wingers always say about them. It's true, to the point where they are dangerous. It's true. Liberals are just so naive. And the reason is that I think the majority of the demographic is like upper middle class or middle class white people. And so there are not bullets flying around, they have enough money, they feel protected, they have no reason really to question the institutions that they feel are providing and protecting them. So it's understandable how they have arrived in these sort of like demasculized, how do you put it, you know what I mean? Like they're harmless and trusting in the government, and it's completely insane to do so to this extent. So let's just try to do an exercise, okay? Let's look at the world from the point of view of a conspiracy theory friendly, right-wing leaning person. I'm not even talking about like total right-wing nut job believing all the conspiracy theories. We don't have to go that far for the point of this exercise. But let's try to imagine that there is a candidate that is being criticized for supporting racism and, well, let's just start there, because I actually did this. So I started hunting on YouTube, and I was like looking for racist stuff that Trump had said. And what I was surprised by was the fact that I couldn't really find anything, and that even some of the mainstream articles that I had seen from like MSNBC, they were lying. They actually were lying, because it was almost inaudible, but when they asked him to denounce the white supremacy, he said, sure. Now, he may not have gone to great lengths to explain what sure means, but the way that it was portrayed in the liberal media was definitely that he had just been silent and condoned it, which isn't what happened. So then by contrast, I started looking at stuff, racist stuff that Joe Biden had said. And there is enormous, and some of it is terrible, absolutely terrible. Not to mention the fact that he's actually created legislation, or at least contributed to legislation. And here's the thing, a lot of people find that like a point of contention, because Biden is often credited with the entirety of the 1994 crime bill or the Patriot Act. Here's the thing, this guy readily takes credit for those things with pride. So even if he didn't actually author the whole thing or whatever, he wants you to think he did. And so that should be taken into consideration when evaluating this motherfucker, I would think, right? So he has destroyed, compared to the right-wing candidate, this guy is like just flaming fucking racist, eulogizing Klan members and stuff. If you try to point this shit out to the liberals, they're like, oh, you're just a racist Trump supporter. what the fuck, you know? And I never understood how deep the programming and indoctrination. I knew it was there, but until this stuff happened. So let's go back to the exercise again. Now imagine that as you perceive it, uh, your rights have suddenly been stripped away. Everyone is being forced to depersonalize the psychology of wearing the mask, which is valid, by the way. That is why Islam does it. Um, it may not be the reason, but it is a legitimate effect of masking everyone, especially children from a young age, and the fear inoculation and everything. I mean, woo. So you're seeing all of your rights get stripped away. You're seeing the opposition chastising you for things that the person that they're offering as a solution is demonstrably worse in every way. Like the actual proof, you know, the evidence that this person represents the things they hate is way stronger. So, of all the politicians that they could have chosen to be a terrible answer, this guy, and as they're passing all these COVID restrictions, stripping your rights away, your freedom of movement is going, your freedom to travel, they're talking about making you put shit in your body that, and I don't care, you guys, it may be, you can say it's unethical to refuse a vaccination all day long, and you might be right. But you cannot mandate what someone will put in their body. You can't. Fuck you. No, you can't. It's not right to mandate whether or not people can take psychedelics. It's even less okay to mandate like that you have to take something. That is like rape. It is, sorry, it's just fucking obviously fucking wrong. Okay, so long story, sort of short. Your rights are all disappearing. Who do they put in office but Patriot Act fucking Biden? Like, really? I mean, it just seems so deliberate. Like, this is exactly the guy that if they were creating this deep state prison population thing, Joe Biden would be president at that point. Like, the guy that wrote the fucking Patriot Act. I mean, that really, considering that the other day is the moment when I went, okay, this is definitely like legit New World Order mind fuckery. They're doing this shit on purpose. Because another thing that made me realize it is that the other day Biden announced that they were going to do this buyback thing with the assault rifles. Okay, bumbling bureaucracy is not real. These people are sophisticated, intelligent, they know what the fuck they're doing. They understand psychology. They have people that are smarter than them thinking about how they should deal with it for them. You know, you don't make errors like this. For Biden to announce his intentions to strip the right wing of assault rifles before he's even made it to inauguration date is definitely deliberately fomenting fear and division and violence. That is calculated. They're not that fucking stupid. Sorry, they just aren't. So, you know, I've noticed that there's this tendency for people to sort of just laugh off anything that is like conspiratorial or, you know, that they think is paranoid or whatever. And I think that that is just as dumb as believing in just random conspiracy theories. And then, you know, take Kamala Harris. She's just one of the scariest fucking people in the history of... Basically, what we have are two people that will demonstrably do anything that they'll get paid to do to make them more famous, make them their textbook sociopath, slime bag, scummy politicians. And it just really seems to me that there is some machination up higher that is... very carefully crafting this mindfuckery. And the level of denial that people have because, you know, this indoctrination that comes from growing up in an area, your family. Okay, so let's talk about deprogramming. I mean, that was kind of a rant, but I'm sure you guys got the point. I mean, it's just too ridiculous at this point to just write off. I'm increasingly concerned with it. It's something that I tried to stop thinking about in my 20s, you know. But yikes, yikes. So deprogramming, just in case you know anybody that needs a little bit of helping hand with this. Hold on, I've been ignoring the comments. I should. Frog strangler. Uh, yeah, you guys, but some of you I can see probably think Trump is actually what they say he is. I don't think that's true either. What I mean, Trump supporters say he is. That's not true either. I think he's totally a fucking puppet too, or they would have shot his ass in the head a long time ago. And it's so obvious to Trump supporters too that they're like, this guy actually said this to me, man, and he's, you'd think millionaires are smart. This guy made $20 million off a $10,000 Bitcoin investment. Supposedly that's the story, but he actually, I was like, well, why haven't they just offed him if he's trying to, like, I mean, you look what happened to Kennedy, like, that's stupid, man. And he's like, oh, no, he's got time travel capabilities, so every time they try to whack him, he just disappears. And it's like, dude, when you have to go that far to explain your narrative, you need to come up with a new narrative, So I think what we all have to do is examine where our beliefs, how did our ontological structure get there in the first fucking place? Um, the first thing you do is like look around you. Where are you from? Is everyone Christian? Are you Christian? Well, you're probably Christian because everyone around you is Christian, not because it's the truth. That was like the first indication for me that saved me from religion and all that shit. I just realized, okay, people in India are Hindu or whatever, I mean, come on, you guys. Like, clearly, there are exceptions, but that doesn't mean it's true. And so part of the beginning of deprogramming is to go through and do that with everything. Your politics, are you from the South? Are you a Republican? Well, there you go. So so you really just have to be willing to examine your proclivities and figure out, like, the first thing is just to compare yourself to the demographic you're surrounded by. And you will be surprised, and you might think, oh, well, I don't really need to do that. I'm an intelligent person. I understand that people are just influenced by their surroundings, and that's where we get these large religions and whatever. But you may find yourself on 5 grams of mushrooms, realizing that you've been carrying around Judeo-Christian sex perceptions and guilt complexes and all kinds of shit. So it's worthy, I think, in your day-to-day life to go through and look for these proclivities that come from cultural programming, and it's actually pretty easy to do. Another thing that I actually have been doing a lot is to just try to look at the world through the goggles of an opposing viewpoint. And if you actually, this is the thing, and this is the main enemy. People really want to believe that they know. This is what has been killing me for the longest time, because for me, I've always just known it was impossible. So I didn't really have that struggle, I am working on the reincarnation video still. And so I was thinking about that, and I mean, it doesn't matter what your subjective experience is. It doesn't matter what appeared to you on the mountain. It doesn't matter what you think is real. You could be wrong. That is the first thing. Like, you have to know that no matter, don't believe everything you think. Even better, don't believe anything you think. But you have to just always know that you're just not really going to know. It's just not going to happen. And people have a really hard time with that. That's where religions come from, but politics too. People are just really invested in the idea that they, for the liberal, it's like believing that there's a fair system that, and by the way, you guys, the cognitive dissonance thing, something that's totally valid that the right wingers are pointing out right now. When Trump won, the liberals are all like, Russia collusion influencing the election. Now that Biden wins, they're all saying elections can't be tampered with. You guys are totally dumb. That's actually real. That is happening for sure. But it doesn't mean that the Democrats are a bunch of evil idiots or that the other side are a bunch of evil idiots. It's that you all are believing in dumb things that are just only, it's like whatever you can fold up and make part of what you already believe, fill in all the blanks with your projections. That's what everyone's doing. And it's killing the planet and it's threatening our continued survival. So, we have to look for these things, and even when the other side is right, we have to acknowledge it. I mean, I had a friend here a while ago that I said something about how the cages and separating people by sex had to do with rape and human trafficking. And he was like, got angry and said that, oh, that's not really, they don't really do that much human trafficking. A week later, some illegal Honduran guy's house got raided, and there were 30 undocumented people about to be sold into not sex traffic, but human organ fucking trafficking. They were all going to be chopped up and sold on the black market. So that's what I'm saying, guys. And no matter what your narrative is, you need to expand the parameters of what you will consider so that you can actually develop a holistic perception of what's actually happening that's not influenced by narrative bias or political bias or whatever your belief system is, because your belief system is integrated with bullshit or you wouldn't have it. That's what belief systems are. Hell no, David Icke didn't. That's like a psychological term from psychology or something. David Icke, man, those guys. I don't have a lot of space for that shit, man. Adam Jones, or no, that's the guy from Tool. Alex Jones. Whenever I hear him talk now, it's just like blah 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 blah. I'm Alex Jones and I'm a big fat dumbass. That's all I really hear, Just too much of what they have said has turned out to be obviously false, like David Icke and the reptilian people. I mean, I don't doubt that there are shape-shifting reptilian aliens. I've met them. But are they in the White House? And George Bush is actually, no, when we watch these people get old and die and they're human, they're dead. Shut up. I mean, so is there anything I missed, you guys? Let me look. I mean, I expected the camera battery to die by now. I'm sure. I don't know. So yeah, anyways, you guys, I really just wanted to touch base and share some of the weird shit that's been happening and try to sound the alarm, I mean, you guys, nobody knows what the fuck is going on, and people need to stop acting like they do, because you just make a fool of yourself, If you are parroting the mainstream narrative, you're a fucking moron, I guarantee you. The mainstream narrative is so naive, so obviously false, so fucking dumb. That's not right. But then, the conspiracy theorists that are like, we know all of this stuff we couldn't possibly know, that's not going to help either. People can see that, so stop it. I like how we communicate, what we communicate about. We need to be much more flexible and not, catmas, not dogmas. Dogmas are inflexible, absolute beliefs. Catmas are relativistic meta beliefs that are flexible and purr when you pet them. And if they bite you, it's not going to hurt that much because it's not a fucking dog, Unless it happens to be a jaguar or a lion, I guess, and then you're fucked. But, all right, guys. I hope that was interesting. I have to get outside before it gets dark again. I'm gonna bring the camera when we go to Banos and the lakes. There's an active volcano. I hear that sometimes you're not allowed up, but if you are, I'm gonna take some San Pedro and go up there and drink and try to get as close as I can to raining lava and into the jungle, meeting our Shuar friend, and wish us luck. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, and definitely all of this is about to cost a lot of money, so click the like button, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon. For the love of fucking God, we got demonetized. And that wouldn't really be that big of a deal, except that the algorithm stops prioritizing your content. So it's one thing to not get a little bit of money from the ads, but to watch our views just plummet because YouTube doesn't care about us anymore is rough. So, but you guys, I just want to mention one other thing. Stupidity can't be fixed. That's not the problem. That is not the problem. It's not that people are stupid. It's programming and indoctrination, which can be reversed. Receptivity could be a bit of an issue, but it is not necessarily incurable, because people aren't stupid. They have been very carefully crafted. I mean, I've noticed the degradation, I guess, of education. I mean, I haven't just noticed. It's like the U.S. has gone from number 1 to number 26 over the last however many decades, 1 decade or something. That shit is intentional. That's one of the biggest things I've really been hung up on, and I think it's worthy of contemplation for all of us, imparting or whatever, is that just naivety. We need to have a little bit more courage, and objectivity, and try not to be triggered. I'm not going to go too deeply into this, but race is a good example where it can be used as a tool by the elites to divide the lower classes, which is very important for them. And if there are sensitive cultural issues that only people with hateful intentions are even willing to mention that actually are valid, not only are we silencing the constituents that are trying to help, we're perpetuating the problem. And so we just really need to learn to be objective and not become attached to our narratives. More flexible narrative. And when I come back from the jungle, we will see what else we think. So let's see if I can get a message from the mushroom, because I said the mushroom speaks. That was the title. Eat me. Goodbye.